passable. You know, you cannot drive down there, you cannot park, you can't, you know. So I was just wondering, that's why I asked if there was any plan with the city into, you know, to make it, you know, to, I don't know,
So all I was going to say with that is if there's sort of starting to be widespread support among different parts of the cultural community for something to change in terms of, you know, French Street becoming no cars after, you know, whatever PM, please tell me, tell Ethan, tell Renard, like if that's something we're starting to hear a lot of, that's the kind of thing we can help consolidate that effort, make sure that the city is aware of it, that, you know, if there needs to be a policy change based on the way that ecosystem is growing or changing, speak up, because if that's in a lot of people's heads, you know, that's exactly the kind of thing that MaCCNO can kind of help funnel into policy changes. Alvin, do you want to take more questions sort of on this, or do you want to keep
I think Sergeant has to go in just a minute, so he's going to answer some more specific questions that were there, so we can get through those briefly, and then if you have more questions.
Well, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I thought, well, let's take it just a quick show of hands. Who would like to see Frenchman cars cut off at night? And who would not? Okay, here we go.
All right, I'm going to answer these questions that people brought up that was related to law enforcement. Unfortunately, I have another meeting that I have to do in the next 5 minutes. Can you play a piano in a truck? As long as the truck is legally parked. You're good. All right? I've already answered that. Jackson Square permits including benches. No. An artist cannot take over a public bench and tell you you can't be on that bench.
What you said so far sounds good in theory when we have problems and we call the police to enforce. But what I've experienced for the last 5 months of me having a problem at the benches and calling the police is that the police hang up on me. They tell me that I need a permit to perform on the bench. They
got turned down.
At one point, they tell me they have more important things to do than to worry about what I'm dealing with because there's robberies and assaults or whatever's going on in the city. And then when I call about complaints specifically dealing with the artist permit regulations, that the police are supposed to take the stuff that's left on the street, the police tell me, well, sorry, we don't have a truck. So what you're saying sounds good in theory, but I see no.
Are you referring, now when you talk about artists, are you referring to performing artists or are you referring to the art people selling art?
The permitted artists, yes.
All right. Permanent artists cannot take over a public bench.
Well, they are, and I can't work because of it.
All right, well.
And I can't get the police to make action.
Hear me out. I have an officer who works there 5 days a week. All right.
Officer Brumfeld?
Correct.
He's useless. I'm sorry to say.
Hear me out.
He doesn't do anything.
Hear me out. If you have
He's a great, nice guy. He's a great guy.
Hear me out. Listen. All right. You have the problem again. Call the police station and actually speak to me.
I actually have you on video going like this to me because you won't listen to
Let's keep it.
This is not the forum for a one-on-one resolution.
With the benches, actually there's not supposed to be any performers on any of those benches. That's still an artist set in stone.
Actually, you're wrong, and the Constitution says that. This is what I'm dealing with. Even the police don't know what the actual rules are for me.
Okay, so it sounds like
The artists taking up the benches, most of the time the artists are leaving their bikes that have a problem with the homeless people sitting there drinking, being obnoxious, interfering with the customers.
She doesn't even have jurisdiction on that side of the
I do
street.
try to regulate that.
So I don't.
The benches, we do want people to use the benches. But there are no speed statues, mines, anybody performing on any of those benches around the square. Only in the front of the cathedral, in front of the museum.
And that's a violation of my
Not saying
constitutional
or
right.
stating that there should be no performers.
That's wrong.
I will say, okay, I've been out there 20 years in the square. What I had always been told, but I have not found any place that actually documents this, is that you cannot conduct business off of a bench. That's why the tarot readers don't use the bench as their seat and set up a table in front of it. And it's why there aren't supposed to be mimes on any of the benches.
Correct.
It's because you cannot conduct business off the bench. That's my understanding. I have not been able to find any place that is codified anywhere.
Street performance is defined by the Supreme Court and has said that it is constitutionally protected free speech, and that bench is public property where I can conduct free speech. Therefore, it doesn't matter what the law is. I can sit there and do my performance.
Okay. I think Katie has something to say as a civil rights attorney.
An important question for you, I think, is whether there's a law that you're aware of that you're enforcing in people's
I believe this is the right, I think it even states in here, I think it's like at a certain time that performers are not allowed to be on St. Peter or St. Anne until a certain time in the evening. That's positive, but I've looked at it, I've run into
The municipal code, you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. But it's been like that since I've been out there now 2.5 years. And
We
I was been
can
there, I
double
don't
check
ask that.
and make sure that
Robert
everybody's
Williams
got
wants
the
that.
same correct, updated information. That's definitely.
I think this says that
I
too.
just want to say,
It's at a certain time that they're allowed to get
I
a St. Anne.
that the city is at fault for not dedicating the resources to you guys. Because what I'm saying is, not only is all this impacting all of us, but it's wiping out businesses, and if they're gone, we're all gone.
The injunction and the law that
What I'm
was
saying, what
placed
we
in
need is for you guys to have the resources that you need to be able to send somebody promptly, because like you said, it's only when it's going on.
Right.
We need somebody to get out and deal with people that are messing it up.
There's another question about gutter punks. It's not a crime to be poor. It is not a crime to look poor. It's not a crime to smell. Okay? And if we're going to use those terminologies, a person has a right to be in a public place, at a public business. If they're not committing crimes, we cannot enforce a person being on a public street. If they're not committing crimes. If it's a private business, and they are told to leave that private business, then it becomes a problem. All right, so as far as moving gutter punks out, that is not something that we can do unless they're committing a crime.
So,
All right.
I actually got one quick follow-up. One question that comes up a lot that I've heard is, how far does private space move forward? So, if you say you said in terms of business, how far
Yeah.
outside of that business do you have to be set up? Where it's in the public right of way rather than in someone's private property?
And is it different on Jackson Square than it is in the streets? It feels like it is.
What's different?
The space that you're supposed to, the boundary that you're supposed
It's
to.
the
stay.
easiest.
Distance from the building?
Right.
Yeah, so,
As long as you're not blocking the entrance and exit of that business, you'll be fine. But you also have to keep in mind, you can't block the sidewalk from people passing. So that's something you have to take into consideration when you set it up. Most of the time, people who perform at Royal and St. Peter, they'll sit right on the edge of the curb and perform, as long as it's not blocking the field with traffic. During pedestrian law hours, they're perfectly fine, because you don't have any vehicle traffic during that time. But as long as you're not preventing customers from patronizing the business in front of their doorway, and you give pedestrians a reasonable passageway so they're allowed to pass past the $4.
Someone mentioned the asking for money. That's nothing you knew about that either.
In terms of who?
Well,
homeless?
he called them panhandlers.
Yeah, and well, we have laws. If you look at the brochure and the handout, you can look at what those guidelines are in terms of panhandling and aggressive panhandling.
It's not against the law to ask for a donation.
I would,
Exactly.
yeah, right.
Exactly. So
they're allowed to panhandle, it's the aggressive panhandling.
But everybody knows, it's a little frustrating to be hit on all the time and then aggressively too.
yeah.
Yeah, so one issue with the panhandlers or gutter pumps or whatever you may want to call so if there's nothing that NOPD can do because it's not illegal, you can also, there's a thing called mediation, community mediation in the city. Mediation is free, it's voluntary, it's confidential, it's non-judgmental. If there's someone that you know is there regularly, you can call Community Mediation Services and they'll provide free mediation. So you can call them and say, you know what, there's this group or this person who is at this intersection, and I'd really like to talk to them about how it's affecting my ability to perform and exercise my constitutional rights, how it's affecting my business or whatever. And we can invite that person to sit down and talk about it, and in mediation you come up with your own agreements for moving forward. So you share how it makes you feel, what's important to you, what it is that you care about, and what you want to make a plan about moving forward. And then you come up with your own agreements. So you share with them what times you want to play music at that corner or whatever. And you come up with your own agreements for when you will be at that space. It's kind of part of the social contract, but a more formal way of handling it. And so I encourage you to reach out to that. It's the website is cmsnola.org or .com. I think it's .org. And you can fill out a form online to coordinate that.
so Allison, we've worked with them before, and the poets can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, we went through mediation and It's definitely not a perfect system, but I guess I think the knee-jerk reaction to like that is I'm gonna remove the person that I'm having to
And thanks for coming today.
not the driving option.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you.
But yeah, I would say that mediation is a really great way to de-escalate a lot of these situations, and I would recommend it as a possible avenue. Yeah, having gone through it, the tension is de-escalated, especially in situations where the law is blurry and it's not like, well, I'm going to sue the pants off you and win this fight. It's like the interactions where it is a social contract issue.
Yeah. So, community mediation services, they are in their like infancy as an organization of getting community mediation going. Today they started training 20 new community mediators who reflect the demographics of the city to start mediating more. So they're getting more professional training and getting their system a little more ironed out. And so I encourage you to use that system. Did you have a question, sir, or you're just resting your arm? Okay. Yeah.
It is the block, I want to make sure that we kind of hit.
So, preventing people from blocking streets while the brass band plays, that's part of the social contract.
That particular spot, like the charters and that's like that by itself is a much larger conversation.
I'll touch on that. We work on Freshman Street Friday and Saturday nights. Yeah, I can't speak for outside those 2 nights. We have 2 officers that work walking foot patrols from the 400 to the 700 block. They are mindful of that. What they have been doing is just talking to the band, telling them, look, can you shut it down so the people can get moving, getting the crowds moving again because they do overflow into the street.
Right.
I know they'll block up the whole intersection.
And I'm not personally in favor of a pedestrian turning Freshman Street into a pedestrian mall. But what I would like to see is the Frenchman security, who was down there, like maybe take a more active role in clearing traffic when it's gridlocked down there.
Now,
when you got traffic blocked, lined up for blocks, like maybe take a more active role in just getting things moving.
We had a meeting with.
This is not the space for that conversation.
Okay.
I want to make sure that the folks here, people that are playing on the street, feel like they've gotten informed about as much stuff as possible. Not that it's not an important conversation, and it needs to get, and it's happened in a few rounds, and it needs to continue happening. I just want to make sure that we don't get too far off track because it is now after 3 o'clock.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. So that's a continuing conversation, and that's something too, like if there's one particular brass band that you want to have a conversation with, for example, then you can have a mediation session with that, because that's better. If you call the police, then there's nothing that the police can do, and so there's we have to find other alternatives that do work for everyone, including for you, because it's not satisfactory at all when you call the police, and they can't do anything, and they get frustrated. I want to follow up too, if you do call the police, so I work at the Office of the Independent Police Monitor, and thank you to everyone who voted. Yesterday, 72% of you said that you want us to have the independence that our office needs to have our own operational and financial independence, so thank you. We also have a community police mediation program, but we also take complaints. So if you call the police district and they say, we don't have time to bother with this, we're not going to handle that, we've got a murder rate to deal with, that's inappropriate, that's neglect of duty, and that's a complaint. If an officer's rude or unprofessional with you, that's a complaint. If you see an officer doing anything that doesn't feel right, doesn't look right, please call our office and let us know. You are the eyes and ears on the ground, you know what's happening. When we vote yesterday, we participate in democracy. We elect certain officials, and there's systems in place for that. But there's no system to really democratize policing. And so this is a way for us to get feedback, to make policy recommendations to NOPD, to hold officers accountable, and to work through solutions that work for the community and for all of you. So our website is ipmnola.gov, and my phone number is up here. It's 504-304-7886. That's my personal line number. And my email address is up here too, along with Katie's phone number and community mediation services. So you can put those numbers in your phones to give us a call anytime. Some other questions that you had. Where to legally go when it rains in Jackson Square? Is there someone with law enforcement that can answer that?
He skated out before he hit the devil.
Yeah, so maybe that's something that creatively.
Well, I actually was helping readers throw their stuff sideways while somebody watched my guitar one day and ran straight off into Marlon Guzman and bounced off his chest. And I told him, I said, where can we legally go when it rains? Y'all tell us y'all don't want us up here blocking his chest. I mean, where can we go? It's raining too hard to get to the vehicles even to put stuff up.
Yeah, so it's probably not a question NOPD could answer. But maybe that's something you can also ask Councilmember Ramsey about, and about some kind of legislation or agreement that can be made about where you can go. So it sounds like there's a number of follow-up steps, both with that and around Frenchman Street, making things pedestrian only, and certain agreements. So there's some larger issues that it sounds like going to Councilmember Ramsey's office about could really help with.
And again, if anybody doesn't sort of feel empowered to talk to a council member, to talk to anybody in the sort of city infrastructure, please call or email MaCCNO. We're always happy to kind of connect you with the right person, or make an introduction, or sit in a meeting as a sort of third party to try to make those concerns land where they're going to be productive.
Performing along the river, I don't know the answer to that. Is there anyone in here who knows the answer about performing along the river? Can you perform music along the river?
I've been fine, not allowed to, the application, obviously, at a hotel, you don't want to be wearing, but we have a private patrol there, we don't have a private patrol there, so.
You don't have a private patrol there? Okay. Can you stand up a little?
Wait, so a sunrise?
Without
No, no one should have anything for a sunrise, everything should be motivational, you can't
Alright, so it looks like there's a private conversation going on over there, and we're going to continue with the public conversation here. So she said that you can play along the riverfront, just as long as you're within the amplification guidelines and the decibel level isn't
It
exceeded.
just seems to me that on Royal Street, in front of the courthouse, and the riverfront, are the two best places for the big brass bands. When you get between the old little buildings on Royal Street where it's narrow, it's like an amphitheater, and it just rattles. I've seen, it gets intense, particularly with brass bands in front. But out in front of the courthouse.
You actually can't play there most days. Only most days are allowed to turn.
On the river?
Of course.
See, that's what I'm saying, that's an issue for everybody. If they have
It's not the French Quarter Festival,
They say
it's
it's
getting close.
too loud.
They start throwing the musicians off the river.
Okay, so, okay, she just walked out. So other folks from the French Market, Sergeant? We have a question here, I think that pertains to y'all's work. So she said when French Quarterfest is coming along, that people are removed from the riverfront from playing music, even though French Quarterfest hasn't begun.
That's something I don't know, that's the city sends people out there to do, I don't know, opinions on that.
Okay, so is that the Department of Public Works or NOPD that's coming out there, do you know, ma'am?
I am not sure.
Okay, so it's important to know what agency is coming out there, so if it's...
I think it's because there's so much foot traffic, they don't want anybody blocking it, they should have people that are counting the people.
Yeah. So
There's
you...
thousands of people coming across the river, for Christmas fest.
So if you think your rights are violated...
Before, in a few days, and whatever, leading up to the preparation.
So if you think your rights are violated, it's important to know what agency or who is telling you what information. So it's important to write down verbatim, like what are they telling you, and what agency they're with. So are they with a private security district? Are they with the French Market Security? Are they with Frenchman's Patrol? Are they NOPD? Are they sheriffs? Are they Louisiana State Police, which we've had a number of complaints about. So knowing which agency is enforcing it is absolutely crucial. Or is it the Department of Public Works that's just, doing sanitation stuff along the riverfront, who doesn't have the authority to really enforce laws. So knowing which agency is telling you what is important so you can share it with us. So that's performing along the river. We covered benches. Huh?
Yeah, and I'll just say, not to, it's not really Allison's area, that would be illegal, right? The city can't come shut you down just at a certain time of year. If you're not otherwise blocking the sidewalk, or not complying with the ordinance, right, you're within your right to be
So being French Quarter Fest or not,
And honestly, I'll give you an example.
I'm sorry, I was looking that way.
Hang on just one second. I'm just going to give an example of that. We had a call this year because street performers were told by, I believe it was an legal officer, that they're going to shut them all down in Jacksonville. I think it was the Friday of French Quarter Fest. And because of some conversations that were then had with the commander of the agency, that was, that only lasted for the rest of that day. Now, what actually happened was, again, rumors and whatever, it gets a little murky, and it seemed like there may have been some kind of altercation between two street performers, and the cops' response was to just get rid of all of them. However, that's not, in terms of street performers existing right there, that by itself is not a problem. And if something like that happens, the fact that that was able to be reversed because of conversations with the 8th district, that wouldn't have been true, a couple of years ago. So that was a good example of these kinds of building relationships, making sure that you know who to call if that happens.
So just quickly, in your encounters with law enforcement, you have a right to record law enforcement, you have a right to take notes and take pictures or video, and that's really helpful as evidence. So in terms of if you feel like your rights are violated, and so collecting that to share with anyone that you reported to, whether it's the Office of the Independent Police Monitor, the Public Integrity Bureau, which is part of the New Orleans Police Department, or ACLU or a private attorney or anyone else. So it's important to have that so we can look at it. If you don't remember what agency it was, for example, we can look at that and identify who it was and who was involved in it. You have the right to remain silent in encounters with law enforcement. You have to show your ID. You have the right to have an attorney present if you're being questioned about anything. What else?
Politeness. Polite. Be polite if you can.
Yeah, so,
Goes a long way.
yeah, so always keep your hands visible with law enforcement so they don't think you're reaching for a gun or anything like that, especially if you're in a vehicle. Being polite can be helpful. It's not something you're obligated to do. You're obligated to show them your driver's license.
I was trying to reach
That's it, and you have the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures.
But not if
So.
you're walking, correct? If you're walking, they ask to see your ID, you do not have to present ID because you're not licensed to walk, is that correct?
You actually still do. Louisiana is what's called a stop and identify state, which means they have the right to stop and ask you to identify yourself. Now, they can't detain you further after you've identified yourself. You have a right to move on unless there's a reason to think that you've broken the law. But we are unfortunately a stop and identify state. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff that you read online about your rights may not be specific to New Orleans or to Louisiana. And also if you are a non-citizen or you have other statuses, you may have, some of your rights may be limited. And if you're LGBTQ or others, you may be treated differently by law enforcement. It's important to document anything that you think is in violation of your rights. So, you have the MaCCNO guide and the 3 o'clock. Okay. Are there any more questions for public discussion that anyone wants to have here?
Can I we have Adina? You want to
Sure, go ahead, Adina.
Yeah, the Orleans Parish Prison Reform Coalition is a community coalition of different organizations, individuals who are working to decarcerate our city, shrink the size of our jail, oppose any expansion of the jail, and improve the conditions of confinement inside OPD. So we're here to just talk a little bit about what's been going on, and I think Mr. Al is going to talk about jail expansion.
Yes. I'm talking about jail expansion. So most recently, y'all probably noticed in the news where a young man was killed, was found dead inside the jail cell. 15-year-old guy was found dead inside the jail cell. So they're using that to say that they need to expand the jail. Almost, they're saying that, almost saying that, when they got enough beds to really house people. And right now they want to do a jail expansion. Right? They want to expand the jail. Right?
They ain't even get the money to fully open up what they got.
Purpose. Excuse me, ma'am?
They ain't even got the money to fully open up what they got. They're complaining about being
Well,
too broke to open temples.
Yeah. This is the $54 million that we're talking about. So they want to do the expansion because of mental purpose. mental health purpose, they say they gotta find ways to expand it. When they can easily just use the jail that they have and just transform it to a mental health facility. That would be great. So they're looking at it, they got a new appliance director, and they're looking at doing this on the 1st of the month. They're not sure yet, but on the 1st of the month, December 1st, looking at, they're trying to agree to when they expand it or what's gonna happen. But this is coming up, y'all, on the 1st of the month, and we want to bring some awareness to what's about to happen in this city, that they're building more jails and creating more jails in the city. So we want to do something like a community forum that we think about doing, and y'all stay tuned. We're going to be inviting people out to the community forum. Should be coming up next around the 21st of this month. So we would like for y'all to come in and y'all invite to the community forum.
You'll have a list. Maybe we can put
Alfred
that
and
in.
Adina, is oppdrc.org still a place they can reach you at?
I just want to talk about one other quick thing that we're working on, which is,
can we just kind of bring this back a little bit? Thank you.
as part of our efforts to shrink the size of the jail and shrink the number of people inside the jail, we have been working on a municipal bail reform ordinance. And under the ordinance, it would basically eliminate money bond for people charged with municipal offenses. And from what I'm hearing, it sounds like municipal charges probably come up for you all a lot. So if the ordinance passes, folks would get an ROR rather than, say, a $2,500 bond that they have to come up with the money in order to get out of jail. There are a few exceptions to that, mostly around crimes of violence. So this is primarily for nonviolent municipal charges, obstruction of a public passageway, some of the panhandling charges, things like that, city charges. So the full council, city council, is going to be voting on this issue on December 15th. I've got some fact sheets if anyone wants to learn more about the ordinance. I can leave these out on the table. But we really encourage you all to be reaching out to your city council members to encourage them to support this ordinance and coming out on December 15th. We don't have a time yet, but I will let you all know when we have the time.
And we will post it on, if you're on our Facebook and whatever, you can check it on there as well if you're interested.
And then, so in terms of kind of, switching over, anybody who has sort of questions for Allison, for Katie, for MaCCNO, for anybody else, please feel free to kind of make the connection. If there's somebody who's spoken up in the room that you want to make sure that you meet and, get a name to the face, all that good stuff. I'm going to write a couple other useful pieces of information up here. One is there's an upcoming meet and greet with the new 8th District Police Commander. It is November 22nd at 6 p.m. at the police station, which is on Royal, the greater block of Royal. The commander,
Nick Durden.
There we go.
Can you post this stuff on the Facebook?
Oh, absolutely.
page?
I just want to make sure that anybody has access to it right here and now if they want it, and then it'll be spread out as much as possible. The other thing I'm just going to write down real quick is the street performance guides are going to be physically available in a number of places. We try to keep certain places stocked with them. So one is the Louisiana Music Factory, one is Spitfire Coffee on Theater, one is the police station on Royal, and then where else? Where am I forgetting?
Captain Rose Nicole.
They may not always be there because it's just a matter of us, making sure to distributing them as they get taken. But if anybody's ever like, hey, where'd you get that? If you want to write down or make a note of these places, and just remember this is where they should be available. If they're ever not, please contact us. I'm going to put my phone number up here as well. If anybody runs into any issues, please let us know. We also have an incident report form on the MaCCNO website. If you have an incident and you want to sort of find out next steps or how to navigate it, please feel free to go and fill that out. It can be anonymous. And again, we're happy to sort of talk about what can or should be follow up to that.
Also, Renard is our man on the street, correct? So you will see Renard around, so make sure you know him, and if you have an issue, you can talk to him as well, and he'll relay it back to us.
And we want to thank Miss Chinese for hosting us today at the Candlelight, and we're looking forward to tonight.
Is there going to be a fundraiser? Going to be a fundraiser for the Candlelight?
By Kermit's 1 o'clock.
Yeah, so at Kermit's Mother-in-Law Lounge at 1 o'clock on what day?
The 19th of this month.
on November 19th.
So we will post that. So the fundraiser also to get, for the summer, to get AC in the candlelight and to get their kitchen up and running. So both great things. So also, we will post that, but please support them as well, because they've been a great host to us. They let us come and do all our events here. It's a great spot, so please support the last music venue in Tremaine.
Yeah, and Katie and I are available for questions along with the MaCCNO.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all.
Really appreciate y'all.